Da, da. I'm Michael D. McCarty here at the National Storytelling Conference in Kansas City, Missouri, June of 2017. Actually, no, it's July 1st. Yay! All right. Yes, yes. Here at the conference having a ball.
And why do you come here? What brings you here?
I've been coming to the conference since 1993. I became a storyteller professionally as a full-time to-do in 1992, learned about the organization, and came to my first conference because I wanted to know what this world of storytelling was all about, professional storytelling. And I remember that first conference on the second day. It started on a Wednesday then. On the second day, Thursday, I couldn't believe how much fun I'd had, how many wonderful people I'd met, how much I had learned, and it was only the second day. And I have had that experience at every conference that I've been to. Now it's a matter of getting together with old friends, meeting new friends, learning things, sharing things, and helping people. And it's just a joyous experience.
Can you share some of those things from this conference that you've learned or shared so far?
Well, let's see, in no particular order. There are several people here who are new to the storytelling world, whether they're doing it in addition to some other work or whether they're considering doing it as a full-time profession. I give a workshop on the business of storytelling. I'll be talking about that on a panel tomorrow. I have always tried to give back to the storytelling community because when I became a storyteller, storytellers have been extremely helpful. We as a group are amongst the most helpful folks if you want to be a storyteller in whatever aspect. We will knock ourselves out to help people be involved in the storytelling profession. Back when I had first started this, I quickly became a resource because when I get in something, I'm in it, full body. So in 94, 95, there's this newspaper, magazine type thingy, freebie in LA, Working World. And they have articles on different professions. And one month, storytelling was featured and I was listed as a resource. And I got contacted by all these folks, mostly actors, who were looking for something to do in between acting gigs. So they called me up and said, I read about this, can you tell me anything? And an hour later, I'm taking their address, I'm sending them packets of information, and every one of them would say, I can't believe how helpful you're being. It's not like that world and some of the other competitive type mindsets in other places. Storytellers, we tend to not think like that. We look forward to having people to come into the fold, to be storytellers, to exemplify storytelling out there in the world. So I've had the opportunity to do that. This afternoon, Rex Ellis was talking about his work at the Smithsonian African American Museum, which was quite fascinating. And then just hanging out with different folks and finding out what folks are doing, sharing my work in the prisons with folks who are interested in doing that. I work in prisons in California teaching storytelling to inmates as part of the Arts and Corrections program. And that's a growing concern for storytellers there. And people around the country are doing programs like that. So you find out new things, you help people. It's just wonderful. And then you have fun and you meet a lot of silly people.
Can you do you have any thoughts about like where is storytelling going and why is it so important that we continue to have conferences like this and continue this art form?
Storytelling is at and is going to everywhere. Okay, let me give an example, a couple of examples. As I mentioned, I work in the prisons. One of the projects I worked on this past year in prison is reentry. Guys who are about to go back, get out of prison and go back into the regular world. So I'm telling the guys at this first day of the class, I'm going to teach them how to find, develop, and tell their stories. I'm talking about the importance of storytelling. And one of the guys raised his hand and said, that sounds very interesting, but what does that have to do with getting a job? I said, well, basically everything. Because what are you going to do? You have to tell them your story. And I remind them that as ex-cons, they have to deal with something that most people don't have to. People make assumptions. I met a guy the other day who learned to make guitars while he was in prison. And several of his guitars ended up in this guitar shop. And he contacted them after he got out of prison, and they were very eager to have more of his guitars. And they said, so where did you learn to make these guitars? And when he said in prison, he said he thought the line had gone dead. And the person ended the conversation and never ordered another guitar. People base their assumptions on movies and TV. If you've been in prison, you're just like the stuff that they see on TV, which is an exaggeration. And that's not that stuff like that doesn't happen. But most guys are getting out. Most guys that go into prison for whatever reason are going to be getting out at some point. So I told these guys, and I tell them still, you have to be able to tell your story. You have to be able to answer that question. I know what you're thinking, all right, because they are dealing with that. So there's so many different applications. I have a friend who's going into coaching, all right, and what's the best way to coach? Is to tell stories. Motivational speaking, storytelling. News reporting, storytelling. Storytelling when you're talking to family and friends. A lot of these guys who have been in my classes in prison tell me that when they have visits from their families, be it mother, wife, sons, daughters, it's easier to talk now. And when they get out, it'll be easier to talk. It'll be easier for them to share their experience because they know their stories, and now they can communicate those stories.
Beautiful. Anything else you'd like to tell the world?
Well, yeah.
About storytelling?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We all, this is my belief, my firm belief. Everybody has at least one story that they need to be able to tell. Truth of the matter is we have more than one, but everybody has at least one story that they need to tell, either because there's someone that needs to hear it or they need to tell it. Find your story, tell your story, share your story, listen to the stories of those that you love and care for. Be happy, be silly, tell stories.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.